Court meeting, March 27th, 2023. It's 9 a.m. Let the minutes reflect that we have a quorum. All court members are present. We're going to begin first with a prayer.
Let us bow our heads. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you in the name of Jesus. Lord God, we live in a time of great confusion, but you haven't changed one bit. We read in the Bible about miracles, divine intervention, and yet, Lord God, at times down here we see this modern age when there's so much heartache. We want to lift to you, Lord God, this morning, Lacey Pruski, her family. Young woman passed away just recently in Atascosa County, and so many are just kind of devastated, as is understandable. As we're here this morning, Lord God, in a few moments, we're going to pledge allegiance to the United States flag and the flag of the great state of Texas. And part of that, we are going to say, under God. Heavenly Father, you are independent of all what's going on down here, and yet we know you care. We're looking towards Easter when you sent your only begotten Son, our Savior, was crucified, and thank you, Lord, he rose from the dead. So, Lord God, as we go through these proceedings today, bless our leaders. Thank you for their hard work. Thank you, Lord God. It's not easy to please everyone. And in these financial times, they're doing a great job, and we thank you for them. So it's all in the name of your grace and mercy. We pray and we thank you. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
All right, welcome, everyone. We're going to start with public comments. Do we have anybody signed up for public comments? There are no public comments. Okay, we're going to move to item number 4, our certificates. And I'm going to read not as many as we had the last time that I was in the court. Okay, so we have a certificate of completion, Brenda Trevino for Federal Grant Summit 2023. Texas A&M Engineering Extension Service, National Fire Academy, Russell King has completed ICS 300 Intermediate Incident Command Systems for expanding incidents. Again, another one for Commissioner King, ICS 400 Advanced Incident Command System for complex incidents. Certificate of Completion, Texas Watershed Steward Program, Tammy Burleson. Texas Association of State Floodplain Managers Incorporated and Texas Floodplain Management Association, Tammy Burleson, Certified Floodplain Manager. Emergency Management Institute, FEMA, Tamara Burleson for IS 200C, Basic Incident Command System for Initial Response, ICS. Again, ICS 100, Introduction to Incident Command System, ICS 100, Tammy Burleson. Certifies that the Honorable Christina Moots, Treasurer, Wilson County, has completed Public Funds Investment Act certificate. Also, continuing education for Honorable Christina Moots, the County Treasurer. 2022 Certificate of Compliance, and that is the certificates for this meeting. We're going to move to item number 5. Ms. Bobby Roberson from Guadalupe Valley Family Violence Shelter. She's going to read a proclamation for us.
Hello, my name is Bobby Joe. I'm reading the Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month. Whereas every 68 seconds, another person in the United States is sexually assaulted. And in Texas, 2 in 5 women and 1 in 5 men are victims of sexual assault. And in fiscal year 2022, the Guadalupe Valley Family Violence Shelter rendered 1,422 services to 370 survivors of sexual violence. Whereas according to a study conducted by the Texas Association Against Sexual Assault and the University of Texas at Austin School of Social Work, approximately 6.3 million Texans have been sexually victimized. Whereas most victims are sexually assaulted by someone they know, and only 10% of rapes are ever reported to the police. Whereas it is appropriate to salute the more than 20 million victims who have survived sexual assault in the United States and the efforts of victims, volunteers, and professionals who combat sexual assault, whereas national and community organizations and private sector supporters should be recognized and applauded for their work in promoting awareness about sexual assault. Whereas police, forensic workers, and prosecutors should be recognized and commended for their hard work and innovative strategies to increase the percentage of sexual assaults cases that resolve in the prosecution and incarceration of the offenders. Whereas sexual violence is a persistent and pervasive problem in our society, one that requires attention year-round, and in order to foster healthy communities, all citizens must support the effort to end sexual violence every month of the year. And whereas national and community organizations, businesses, and the private sector and the media are urged through national sexual assault awareness of sexual violence and strategies to decrease the incidence of sexual assault.
Now therefore, we, the undersigned, do hereby proclaim the month of April as National Sexual Assault Awareness and Prevention Month in Wilson County, and all citizens to observe this month by supporting the goals and ideals of victims and those working toward awareness and prevention, and by participating in community efforts. In witness whereof, we have hereunto set our hand this 27th day of March 2023. The court will sign the proclamation.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Robertson.
Thank you.
We're going to move to item number 6, discuss and take actions on order requesting certain routine and reoccurring bills to be presented to the county auditor for review and approval prior to payment. So all this is, commissioners, is we had an old proclamation. We need to update it with our signatures. Nothing's changed. This just allows the county treasurer, and I don't know, Mr. Urbina, you want to get up and explain what that's about?
Yeah, so several years ago, it was brought to the court, and this was actually before I took office, that all monthly recurring bills, which are utilities, rents, things like that, don't have to be presented to the court at every commissioner's court. The treasurer sends them to my office, we review, approve them, send them back, and she submits the payments. And so I believe, like Judge said, this is just an updated proclamation with your signatures on it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to, was it a proclamation to, for routine and reoccurring bills to be presented to the county auditor review and approval prior to payment?
All right, motion made by Commissioner Martin, seconded by Commissioner King. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Against? Motion passes. Okay, we're going to move to item number 7. Nikki Strohr from the Library Director to discuss, take action on the unexpected and non-budget expense of moving the Stockdale Library from 800 Main Street back to 600 Main Street in Stockdale.
Okay, I put together another little slideshow for you guys because all of this started way back in 2018. So on the slide, you have our temporary location, which was 800 Main Street, and on the other side is the regular home for the Sarah Baines Chandler Public Library. So in 2014, just to give you some background stuff, in 2014, the county library and the city of Stockdale signed an interlocal agreement where the city of Stockdale takes care of the building and the county takes care of its contents. So in 2018, I went out for a grant, this was before we had a grants department, asking to create a meeting room, a hub so people could get together and talk with new furniture, and they said no. When the furniture guys went through the building, the floor was squishy in parts. And what that is city stripped out the building, went to the subflooring, and termites had gotten to the whole bottom of it. So the county paid for the public library to go 500 feet to 600 Main Street, and we've been there since 2019. Next one. So this is what it looks like. They actually did me a favor when they went through. They actually, I'm not a contractor. When they did the joists, they doubled them to give extra strength to the heavy metal shelving and to the extra weight that the books actually put on this subflooring. So we tried, and then in between, the Library Foundation had its first casino night. The Library Foundation raised $15,000 for the future insides of Stockdale. And the Library Foundation has since returned that money to the city of Stockdale. So next, please. So we have a lot of shelving units that's out in the pavilion that's in the courtyard. These were new to us. We found them in Bryan College Station. The library there received a grant. They had to move out all of their year-old building shelving. They would not let the shelving go back in the building because the insides was funded on a grant. So we rented U-Hauls, drove it up there, and drove everything back. It has been moved between connexes that people said, oh yeah, you can store it here. So now it's all in the pavilion. So we are ready. The next slide is the insides. We are ready for it to go back. Last week, we actually were able, thanks to an emergency PO, we were able to move all of the contents from one building to the next. So the bottom two pictures, the movers, that's all they do is move libraries. They don't move people. They don't move anything else. They have these huge gondolas. So they pick up one shelf of book, which with 32, 36 inches, put them on the gondolas, shrink wrap them, roll them on, and move them into the next building. That's how efficient these people are. So do I have another one? So we've gone back to the same grant company that we applied for in 2018. It's the Talker Foundation. They do nothing but furniture and computers for libraries. So our original ask was $116,000 plus. With the help of the moving company, we can reuse that shelving by slicing off the height. New height for library shelving material is 2 feet shorter than what was in those pictures, just because of safety. They don't want them 72 inches tall. So the moving company has come. They helped us reduce the ask. When I put the slide presentation together, the new ask was $97,000. Friday, I got word that we were approved. So I need to come back a third time to ask for y'all's signature on the contracts. The pictures are part of, we sat down with an architect, the Talker Foundation, citizens from Stockdale, and we've picked out the colors. So those are going to be the colors that they're working on. And yes, there is a purple wall. Somebody did sneak in and paint a purple wall, because I understand that's the colors for Stockdale is purple and silver? White. So if you go to the next one for me. So this is what it looks like when we've moved in. I really love the one where it has the steps that go up and down. That can be turned over and it becomes a boat. But the background wall is all picture book covers. That Nikki Myrick, our outreach librarian, has been saving book covers for a couple of years. That she laminated them, and she calls it a rainbow wall. So the only pieces that we are missing to the shelving part is the actual top part and the side laminates. But the $97,000 also includes computer tables, easy chairs, all that kinds of stuff. Do I have one more, I think? No. Today, I'm here to ask for approval of the unexpected and non-budgeted price to move the library back to its renovated home. I believe it was $7,900. And that's what I'm here today to get.
Commissioners, y'all have any more questions for the director?
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll entertain a motion that we take action on the unexpected, non-budgeted expense of moving the Stockdale Library from 800 Main Street back to 600 Main Street, Stockdale.
Brenda, where would we pull it from?
Yeah, so I had the discussion with the judge, excuse me, with Ms. Dorr as well. The library is set up under a separate fund. It has its own fund, 3,400. So we have coded that expense to relocation expenses, which were not budgeted. So depending on the end of the year, how the library expenses, if she exceeds her budget because of that, it'll just come off of the fund balance in the library.
For the next year?
It does not affect the general fund whatsoever.
What was the exact amount, Judge?
It is, I'm sorry, Judge.
Was it 7,005?
It's $7,918.97.
I make a motion that we fund the library balance for this unexpected expense of $7,918.97. Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Aiken, seconded by Commissioner Paradola. Is there any further discussion? If there's none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, motion passes. Okay, we're going to move to agenda items 8 and 9. We're going to combine those because we have two different directors, one from CAST and another one from Belong. Am I correct, Dr. Okay, if y'all want to come to the podium, please. It is in regards to April is the National Child Abuse Prevention Month, and then I'll have a few comments after that, after they read their proclamation.
Good morning, Commissioners. Judge Whitman, thank you for having us.
Morning.
Whereas more than 600,000 children are abused in the United States every year, an estimated 618,000 children were victims of abuse and neglect in 2020, which is the most recent year for which there is national data. And whereas in fiscal year 2021, 3.9 million reports were made to Child Protective Services. And whereas child abuse and neglect is a very serious problem affecting every segment of our community, and finding solutions requires input and action from everyone. And whereas children are our most valuable resources and they will shape the future of Wilson County. And whereas child abuse can have long-term psychological, emotional, and physical effects that have lasting consequences for victims of abuse. And whereas statistics show 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused before their 18th birthday, of which 1 in 4 girls will be sexually abused before their 18th birthday, and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused by their 18th birthday. 98 of the perpetrators are someone the victim knows. And whereas protective factors are conditions that reduce or eliminate risk and promote the social, emotional, and developmental well-being of children.
And whereas community organizations such as Belong, SJRC, CAST, Wilson County Child Welfare Board, court-appointed special advocates, ACOG, Early Childhood Intervention, Wilson County District Attorney's Office, the City of Floresville, the City Center, the Crisis Center of Wilson County, Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, Wilson County WIC, Alamo Transit Services, Wilson County Sheriff's Office, Floresville Police Department, Communities and Schools, Methodist Wesley Nurse, Camino Real, Wilson County Public Health Office, Floresville Public Library, Floresville ISD, Poth ISD, assist in stopping child abuse and neglect.
Thank you. Now therefore, I, Wilson County Judge Henry L. Whitman Jr., do hereby proclaim April 2023 as National Child Abuse Prevention Month in Wilson County, Texas, and urge all citizens to recognize this month by dedicating ourselves to the task of improving the quality of life for all children and families. Thank you. I just want for the audience to know, and commissioners, most people y'all know that I had the honor, do we have any caseworkers from CPS here, from Department of Family Protective Services? No? Okay. I had the honor of being the commissioner over the Department of Family Protective Services, and that's 12,750 employees, of which 7,000 are caseworkers of different stages, whether family-based safety services, CPI, many of them, foster care, foster to adopt, and I've never seen a more dedicated team of caring caseworkers work. What you read in the newspapers when a child dies, the first thing they do is look up and see the child had ever been under the care of Department of Family Protective Services. Most of them, when they do, it makes the caseworkers look bad. So let me put this in perspective for you. I know many of y'all don't know how many kids are in care today under the care of the DFPS. Not CPS is part of it. There's 30,000 children, 30,000 every given day, with every category that was just named off by Dr. Knox and Ms. Ramirez, every day. So if you ever get a chance to meet a caseworker, thank them for what they do, because it's a job that requires them to see these children in a timely manner. They miss important dates with their own children and their families while they're taking care of somebody else's children. And that needs to be recognized as well. And I just wanted to make that point while we're in court. So we're going to sign both these proclamations, and I'll send them on each end. Okay. We're going to move to agenda item number 10, our county auditor, Ms. Brenda Trevino, to discuss and approve the use of the Expo Center grounds and hall for the annual Floresville Peanut Festival Barbecue Cook-Off, May 19th and 20th.
Yes, thank you, Judge. So this is the third annual barbecue cook-off for the association. The first year, just to give you some background, the first year the court graciously allowed the association to have it here on the courthouse grounds and the surrounding streets. We outgrew that. At that time, we had over 50 teams. And the second year, which was last year, it grew extraordinarily. Commissioner Martin has been one of our huge supporters because he goes out and judges every year for us. And so we're requesting again this year to have it out at the Expo and Community Center. We have it outdoors. All the teams come. It's an awesome weekend. It starts Friday evening at 5 o'clock, and we wrap up on Saturday at 5 p.m. as well. And the association and all volunteers do all the trash pickup and everything that goes along with that. So we're asking the court's permission to use the grounds again this year. We do use the inside of the hall for the judging because of the air conditioning and things like that. So we're requesting the use of it once again this year.
Okay, thank you, Ms. All right, Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion to approve the use of the Expo Center grounds and hall for the annual Floresville Peanut Festival Barbecue Cook-Off, May 19th and 20th.
I'll make a motion that we approve the use of the Expo Center grounds for the annual Floresville Peanut Festival Barbecue Cook-Off, May the 19th and 20th.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Piradolo, seconded by Commissioner Martin. Is there any further discussion? If there's none, then I'll entertain the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Thank you. Move to agenda item number 11, discuss and take action on developing a Wilson County Volunteer Economic Development Committee board that would assist county leadership with establishing growth in Wilson County. So Commissioners, the reason I had this put on there is we may have had something similar to this in the past. I've asked previous judges, and they did at one time, not to the magnitude I think we need to do it. We need to bring industry and jobs into this county. And without doing it from our local business men and women, they can provide extremely good input to us while we do that. It's a strictly volunteer board. They could break off into subcommittees. And I'm just asking the court that we start heading in that direction so we can start doing that.
Judge, do you want to address how we're going to either select or determine who's going to be on this committee?
Yeah, what I want to do is, first I want to get this on that we're in the right direction and we want to do that. I am visiting with other cities that are doing this. Some do it voluntarily, some pay, they have a paid staff to do it. We don't have the means to do that. So I'm going to be continuing to visit with the other counties that do the volunteer boards and see how they do it and how they choose the members for the court, or members for the committee.
Judge, and I do believe, Judge, there is some statute related to that as well that may help provide some direction. I think I remember reading into it a couple years ago, so I can do some research for you as well.
So just keep in mind, this is the first step. This is not saying we're going to start making, can we move in that direction and start bringing some businesses into our community? Now that we know that our high-speed internet, our broadband's in here, and a lot of the bigger companies will not come in unless that is in place.
I'll make a motion that we move forward and take action on developing a Wilson County Volunteer Economic Development Committee / board.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Commissioner Paradola, seconded by Commissioner Martin. Is there any other discussion? If there is none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those against? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to agenda item number 12. I understand that Mr. Phillips is not here from Frontier Communications, and there's a representative. Discuss and take action. Frontier Communications plans a major fiber broadband deployment project in Wilson County, and Frontier would like to review its plans for bringing symmetrical 5G BPS broadband to residents and businesses. Frontier is also pursuing state grant funding to reach rural, high-cost areas of the county that would otherwise go unserved and is seeking support from the county, including a letter of support to secure state grant funding. Frontier, you're up.
Thank you, Judge Whitman and Commissioners, for having me here today. I'm Allison Ellis. I'm SVP of Regulatory Affairs for Frontier. Very much appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you today about Frontier and our plans for fiber expansion and our hope to be partnering with the county in order to bring fiber services to your community. I do appreciate also the discussion of the economic development. I think that Frontier could have a big role to play in enhancing your ability to attract business into the community. So maybe I'll just start with a little bit of history about Frontier. It's probably a name that you're familiar with. We've been in the community as a provider of services for a number of years. We actually purchased the landline facilities from Verizon in 2016. And we originally had deployed DSL-based broadband services to communities. When that was first rolled out, people were very pleased with that level of service because 1 megabit, 3 megabit, 5 megabit service was really all that you needed in order to do the applications that people were using at that time. Think about things like email, web surfing, online bill pay. But very quickly what we found is that consumers' needs for broadband capacity outpaced our ability to enhance and augment our network. You know, when we were first deploying DSL-based broadband service, Netflix didn't even exist. So the issue with copper networks is that they are distance sensitive. And so the further that you are from the central office, the more the signal deteriorates over distance. And so the further you get out of town, the less your connection performs when there are a lot of other users on it. And Frontier found itself in a position of financial difficulty. We entered into a negotiated restructuring with our creditors, which we completed in 2021. This was actually a very positive thing for the company because we accomplished three major things. The first is we eliminated $10 billion worth of debt, which was on our balance sheet and preventing us from being able to invest in communities and expand the services that we offer. The second is that we became an entirely new company with an entirely new board of directors and an entirely new senior leadership team. This senior leadership team that we have at the company is the most sophisticated that we've ever had. And then the third is that we emerged with a very clear vision for the company, which we call Building Gigabit America. And in short, that's our initiative to bring fiber to the premises symmetrical services to as many locations in our footprint as quickly as possible. Our current leadership feels very strongly that even if you live in rural communities, you should have the exact same level of connectivity that people who are living, your urban counterparts, people who are living in big cities get. And in fact, when we're rolling out our fiber products, many times we're making a level of service available in more rural communities that people living in big cities don't even enjoy. So this is a very important objective for our company. If you'd like to, sorry, I don't have control of that. So I just wanted to maybe emphasize a little bit about what this means, building Gigabit America. So we announced publicly a plan to pass 10 million locations with fiber by the end of 2025. In December, we hit the halfway point, and so we're very proud of that. We had always deployed fiber in our network, but we had really not done it on the scope or scale that we began to do it in 2021. We spent 2022 really building our fiber deployment muscle, honing our processes and procedures, and really optimizing our deployment process. We started the year with a goal of passing 1 million locations with fiber, and actually mid-year, we updated our guidance and we ended the year with 1.2 million passings. So we really have a fiber deployment machine that is the envy of the industry. Maybe just go back. A couple things that I just wanted to touch on. So when we talk about the new leadership, right, our new leadership is focused on three key things, which is operational excellence, right, improving our ability to provide services to consumers, doing so in a fiscally responsible way, and then also doing it in a more consumer-centric way, so providing better customer service to consumers. We also, when we talk about this Building Gigabit America plan, this is a plan that was vetted by our creditors, was vetted by our internal experts, and also was vetted by the bankruptcy court judge, which has to analyze it based on the standard that the company has a plan that will not lead it back into future financial distress. So when you think about where are we now, that that chapter of the company's history is very much in the rearview mirror. We have $2.8 billion worth of liquidity and one of the best debt-to-income ratios of our industry. So we're not just focused on the fiber deployment, but also, winning customers, getting customers to sign up for our service, and we're doing that through improved customer service and operational efficiencies. I don't know how many of you are really familiar with fiber, but I can give you some high level, what's the difference between fiber, cable services, fixed wireless services, and DSL services. So fiber is very much the future of internet connectivity. It provides the premier level of connectivity that's available anywhere today. Think about very high symmetrical services and very strong reliability. We actually were the first company in the nation to deploy 5 gigabit symmetrical services. We did that in January of this year, so that's 5,000 megabits up, 5,000 megabits down. We actually were the first company to launch 2 gig symmetrical service last February. A lot of residential consumers don't really need that level of service, but we deployed it as part of our demonstration to the communities where we're looking to expand, that we are building the connectivity that their communities need well into the future. not yesterday's technologies or today's connectivity, but what is going to support future uses, which we know are very much coming. Very bandwidth intensive applications like artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality applications that are increasingly becoming part of our daily living. In addition, when you think about what a lot of folks learned, unpleasantly so, but learned through the pandemic, is that as consumers and as an industry, we were focused on how fast is your download connection. But really, we needed to be focused as how fast is your upload connection as well, because you need to have a very fast upload and it needs to be symmetrical in order to have applications like Teams and Zoom and WebEx work in a very seamless way. That's what allows you to work from home effectively, to do remote schooling, or to access telehealth services, that sort of thing. Fiber is not only wins in the speed category, but it also wins in the performance and reliability category. It's much more reliable than a traditional copper network, primarily because it is a passive network, which means the connection only needs to be powered at either end of the connection, so in the central office and at the end user location. Copper networks need to be line powered all along the path of transmission. So that means in instances where you have an unstable electric supply, if you have an interruption anywhere along the transmission path, you lose connectivity. Whereas with fiber, if you have connection at the central office, which in a commercial power outage, we have very robust backup power capabilities, and the end user has backup power, whether that's through battery backup or a generator at their own house, they're going to have connectivity. That means for internet services, for voice services, for their video download services. When we look at our network in the overall, it has a 99.97% reliability, so that equates to about 2.5 hours of downtime on average per year. So that's a very stable, very strong connection. We also know that, all of us, and certainly you in Texas, are experiencing more aggressive weather. And one of the attributes of fiber is that it is a very flexible connection. So it can withstand wind without, kinking or interrupting the signal. It also is not affected by water the way that copper is. So when it rains and copper gets wet, it has a hard time with that. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that the benefits of fiber are very well understood. They're very well studied, in terms of economic development for communities, in terms of higher property values, ability to work from home, school from home, telehealth services. And I also want to say that the network that we're building today is scalable to 10 gig symmetrical, but the other really great benefit of fiber is that it can be scaled in the future very easily to enhance the speed capabilities. You won't have to deploy an entirely new network again. You just need to update electronics and things like that in the network, which is much more economical because it doesn't involve going out into the community and laying new wire. So when we look at our Texas presence, we have about 2,000 employees in the state. That's a lot of employees for us. We operate in 25 states. Texas is our second largest state. This is very typical of how our footprint looks in states. We have sort of little pockets everywhere because we're a traditional local exchange carrier, and our footprint is based on something called wire centers. I don't know who drew the wire centers years and years and years ago, but they really don't follow any kind of clear municipal boundaries or county boundaries. They look a little bit more like camouflage for some reason. In Wilson County, our footprint is about 87% of the county, and we have about 19,000 addresses that we're able to serve with the community with our existing network. When we're talking about doing the fiber deployment, we're talking about overlaying our existing network, so upgrading everybody who currently has fiber-based services. And then to the extent that it's feasible, sort of edging out and filling in to ensure that we're getting as close to 100% coverage of our footprint or even of the county as possible. Next slide, please. Thanks. So this is really very difficult to see on this slide, so I apologize for that. I did email the presentation, so if you want to go back and look at it a little bit more closely. But the state and the FCC have worked very hard to establish a map that shows grant-eligible locations. So you all are very familiar, I'm sure, with the fact that there's a significant amount of federal funding that is coming, $42 billion nationwide. As the projections are that Texas is going to be a big winner in that, with more than $3 billion allocated for broadband expansion in Texas. There's actually currently a state grant initiative open with $400 million. So this is money that has been allocated to help address the need of unserved and underserved locations. Unserved are defined as those locations that don't have 25/3 service. So think very modest connection. Maybe you can do some very simple Zoom type call, but you certainly couldn't do that with more than one user in the house. And then underserved is if you don't have 100/20. So a more robust level of service, but still not symmetrical, and so it doesn't do a good job with a lot of users at the same time within the household. So in this, all of the ones that are in brown, those are individual addresses that have been identified as unserved or underserved. And the ones in yellow we have included because those are locations that are currently served with fixed wireless. So fixed wireless is a service that can provide some connectivity, but it's not capable of doing high-speed symmetrical services, number one. And number two, it doesn't do a good job over distance or with a lot of users because it has capacity constraints. So if there's an opportunity to bring fiber services into those locations, we think that's a really important focus for the community and for the state, because really that level of connectivity is not going to be sufficient very soon in the future. And I think, just to go back, I think there's about, of the unserved and underserved, I can't read that exactly, but I think there's about 72 or 7,500 locations in the county, so that's quite a number of locations. So when early on when I was talking about improving the customer service, so this just gives you an example of how our current leadership is different than the prior. One of the first things that they did is they came in and they surveyed our customers to ask them what they was most important to them about their internet service. And then we built our flagship offer around that. And this offer, our gig symmetrical service, is really reflective of that. So the first thing that consumers said was they wanted really high-speed services. So our flagship offer is 1 gig over 1 gig. We have a 500 over 500 offer. We also now, as I said at the outset, have 2 gig symmetrical and 5 gig symmetrical. But this is the one that sort of leads in terms of what consumers are really interested in. Consumers said that they were price sensitive, and so we priced this at $69.99 per month. That is a very competitive price in the marketplace. When you think about gig service, 12 or 18 months ago, consumers would be paying, in some markets, $200 or more for this level of service. Consumers also said that they wanted a better in-home Wi-Fi experience, so this is the mesh network within your home. We partnered with Amazon to bring the Eero Pro 6 router into our product portfolio. This is a device that uses the latest Wi-Fi 6 standard, very robust connectivity. 2 routers are able to cover, a 5,000 square foot house without signal drops. I actually had a consumer who said to me that they had set it up in their house and then went across the street at their neighbors, and they were still getting a gig service. Now, that's not going to be everybody's experience, but it does give you a demonstration of how robust and strong this connection is. It's a device that can have, many devices connected to it without any signal difficulties. So when you think about what your home is like today, many consumers consider they forget about all the things that are connected. I mean, there are now doorbells and there are thermostats. Every wireless device, telephone, every mobile phone in your house is connecting to your wireless connection when you're at home. Tablets, computers, TVs. There's just so much that is internet connected at this point, and the EuroPro router can handle all of that without any difficulties. Consumers also said that they didn't like to have additional router fees, additional charges on their bill. So with this offer comes 2 EuroPro 6 routers. They're included, no additional charge. If consumers need an additional one, they can rent that or purchase that. But honestly, it has such great performance that that's a very rare instance. We also do participate in a federal program that's called the Affordable Connectivity Program, and this is one of the areas where it's really important for us to be able to partner with communities because there's not really great understanding amongst consumers of the availability of this. So they call it the ACP program. The ACP program, according to its eligibility definitions, about 40% of the population nationwide is eligible. And this provides a $30 discount on services for income-eligible consumers. We built our ACP offer to provide a very robust level of service, so 100 over 100 megabits. A eligible household will get that level of service at zero cost to them. The way that the program has been rolled out, if a consumer wants to use their $30 credit to purchase up and buy a higher tier of service, they can certainly do that. But again, this is 100 over 100 is a connection that will allow multiple users in the home to do really high bandwidth activities all at the same time. So, our CEO very much feels it's important that people who are eligible for this have a really great connection and that they're not getting something that's lesser than, consumers who can pay outright for the service. So in terms of, talking with you commissioners and at the county level, we have had a lot of experience in the grant space at this point. We have applied for, well over 150 grants across 14 states. And what we have found is that we are most successful in helping communities bring money into their community to expand broadband service when we partner with the community. And there are a lot of ways to show a very strong partnership. An obvious and very concrete way is a financial contribution into a program, right, to make it more competitive before the grant authority, to potentially expand it a little bit broader than Frontier would be able to do independently. There's also in-kind contributions, things like a commitment to streamlined permitting, otherwise ensuring that, if you're having projects that we're aware of those so that there's an opportunity for joint trenching or to, have the county deploy conduit that we can use later to blow fiber through, that sort of thing. So those are the things that we would really like to talk with the community about because we think together we could do a tremendous amount of making progress towards bringing service to those 7,500 grant eligible locations, but also expanding broadband service, fiber service beyond that. What we have generally done when we look at grants is we initially started looking at just the grant eligible locations, and that was good because you connect those people. But what happens is then those people have like the premier level of internet connectivity, and everyone else around says, well, I want that too. And so what we have been, our approach has been to look at, okay, here's a grant eligible project that we're working with the community on. How can we create a complementary project in and around that Frontier self-finances in order to expand the fiber connectivity and make it available to more residents in the community? So I'll stop there, and if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Ms. Ellis, I do have one. So on that zero cost for low-income families, thinking about the children that are having to work from home, is that 100 megabytes enough, sufficient for them to do their homework?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
stream
Yep.
with their teacher?
Yep, absolutely. More than one student within a household and a parent working at
And
home.
their
as
brother
well.
or sister be in the other room playing video games.
What will that cause if they do that? I mean, that's a good question he just asked. If they're back there playing a video game,
It's not fiber is not capacity constrained in the same way that, DSL technology is. So at 100 megabits, you can have multiple users within the family using the connection all at the same time. The other thing that's really neat about the Eero Pro 6 router, I mean, I wish I had this when my children were younger. They're older and out of the house now. But it has an application that allows you to dynamically manage the internet access within your home. So for example, if you decide that you want to have quiet hour for dinner, you can actually set that up in the application so that the router does not allow connectivity for selected devices during a window of time. So instead of having to have that fight about like no tablets at the table, the tablet just doesn't work. So to your point, if you want to make sure that there's not two students gaming while one student is trying to do work, because they should probably be doing work themselves, you can make that device not available. So, that I think there are lots of other features, but that's one of the features that I, as a parent was like, I wish we had this when I was, when my kids were little, because we had a lot of fights about devices.
So I have a few. I know there's at least one bill at the state talking about bringing this type of service. Where are y'all involved with that?
Yeah, we absolutely support that. So there's a lot of funding coming to the state of Texas, and the legislature is currently considering adding a significant amount more. I think it's, 800 million or $1 billion. I mean, it's a lot of money. And it sounds like it will solve the problem, but it may not be enough to get everywhere, get everyone within the state. So the good thing about fiber is that it is very economical. It's a once-in-the-lifetime opportunity for investment to make sure that the community has what it needs well into the future. And Frontier, as an existing provider, has a lot of economies of scale that it can bring to projects because we have an existing footprint. We have existing infrastructure that we can leverage. As a telecommunications provider, where we have aerial infrastructure, we're lowest on the pole, so we can overlash our facilities and don't have to worry about, doing what they call make-ready work, moving around the different attachments on a pole. It's very light, so typically you don't have to replace poles. And then in terms of undergrounding, where we have to take the facilities underground, we try to use, obviously our existing resources where we have those, but then we also try to use more modern and more economical deployment technologies, things like, processes, things like micro-trenching, directional boring, missiling, which can make it less disruptive to a community. I mean, it's construction, so there's always a level of disruption, but we really try to minimize it to the fullest extent that we can. And because we have really a very robust fiber deployment machine at this point, when we get to the point of coming into a community and doing construction, we can complete the project very quickly.
You're asking for this of the court. Have you gone to the different municipalities and discussed this, or?
Not yet. I mean, that is our intention. Yeah.
Because I know at least one already has some of this built out. The problem is that there are next door neighbors, catty corner or the next street, that they go, sorry, we're not offering service to you at this time.
Right.
And so within the community, there's people who are blazing fast, and then others that are still getting their internet over the airwaves. Not quite dial up, but,
Yeah.
sometimes it seems like it.
Yeah, and that, we're very sensitive to that because if you focus only on the unserved and underserved, you solve one problem, but you create another because you essentially leave everyone else who hasn't had fiber deployed to them as now the new underserved. And so that's one of the areas where, we think it's really important to partner with communities because we can look for opportunities to ensure that we minimize that to the fullest extent possible.
I wonder if they allow, just speaking as far as, I don't know where the cities are or what agreements they have. But, you know, whether or not they allow multiple companies within the city limits to be able to take and provide the services. Because now you get into exactly what you talked about. There's multiple lines on the pole that are providing the same service. If you have to go underground, you have multiple, potential for multiple lines underground and things of that nature.
I mean, it's a very competitive industry, so, you know, that's why, you know, if you're in town, you see competition, right? Because you see it amongst companies like Frontier and cable providers. When you get out of town, the expense of connecting a home gets so high that, you know, typically the cable company hasn't gone out there. They've stayed within town and sort of, you know,
Worked a cluster that
yeah, they
was
sort of
going to
cherry
be profitable.
Yeah,
at the
they
end of the
cherry
day.
pick profitable. And one of the things that this funding will do is it will enable companies to extend out further into the more challenging to reach locations because of the lack of density and the cost associated with them.
Thank you. You want to,
Did you?
Well, just reaching out further than the cities where we're at right now, you know, it's kind of a big thing that you hear quite a bit of. So, but she already answered that.
Okay.
So how do you, so I guess primarily, John, correct me if I'm wrong, we have Frontier and Spectrum here in the county, right?
There's several providers there. Well, there's like CenturyLink in Scottsdale, that's their local exchange. And then here in the Floresville area, there's Spectrum. We actually use Spectrum here at the courthouse and the sheriff's office, the library. And then there's Frontier here in the area. Frontier's probably the widest deployed as far as the DSL service, as far as a wireline carrier. And then we also have GVEC that provides service in the Livonia area in GVEC electrical areas. They're co-ops, they kind of, most of their
Right.
and then there's there's quite a few wireless providers in the area. So and then there's also satellite. Starlink is starting to deploy. Now that doesn't offer the same speeds that they're talking about as far as gigabit, but it does sometimes exceed 100 meg. But what was your question exactly?
Well, I guess, I mean, I know it's a competitive market, and I guess how do y'all decide where you're going to go? I mean, we certainly don't have any objection to supporting anything we can do to, or at least I don't, to getting additional internet service to the county, because I know one of the issues that we had, you know, back when the pandemic and the things shut down and kids were sent home with hotspots, and some worked and some didn't, depending on, you know, where they were at and what they could get. And, you know, we've got some kiddos around here that are miles from a cell tower or a town or, you know, what have you. And I'm just trying to understand, you know, because I know it doesn't work like your electric companies and your water companies where they have a designated area that they're allowed to operate in. And so it's just strictly a financial analysis on y'all's part, and whoever gets there first wins, I guess.
Yeah, so a couple things. There's absolutely a place for wireless connectivity, right? Everyone appreciates having that. It's not the same as having a wired connection in your home, just as you've pointed out, for the ability to do remote schooling or remote work. And so the state and federal money is really intended to bring wired connectivity to as many locations as possible. There will be some locations that, because they are so remote or so high cost, that the solution for them will be fixed wireless or will be, you know, near Earth orbit satellite services. But again, the intention of the state and federal government is to be able to deploy wired connectivity to as many locations as possible. In terms of how do we determine where to go, I mean, it's a very competitive industry. So we look at a whole host of factors: density, cost per household, ability to leverage our existing infrastructure, you know, competition, but also having partnerships and the support of local communities is a really important part of that as well, because things like permitting, permitting can really derail a project if it gets, if it takes too long and it's unpredictable. Because we're coming in, we've got our crews all staged, we're ready to go, and if we run into an issue with permitting, we can't have the crews just sit there and wait until it's resolved. They have to go to another community and do another job. And so, that's one of the places that one of the factors that can make an area more attractive for the company to come in and do a deployment project. Another thing that has made certain communities where the finances are challenging, just for a private entity to be able to sustain it fully, are communities where they've used their state and local fiscal recovery funds or some of their ARPA funds to contribute to a project in order to ensure that fiber is more broadly deployed and that it meets the economic model that Frontier has in order to has to satisfy in order to be able to do the deployment project.
I'm assuming, and then that's dangerous, but at this point, have y'all done any analysis that would indicate whether you're primarily underground or try to get on electric poles?
Well, we're on electric poles. We're on poles today. So I have that information, but I don't have it with me right now. But we know the percent of our network in the area that is aerial versus underground or buried.
I've got a question for Mr. Caldwell, our county attorney. Is there any problem with us issuing a support letter for a company like this when there are other entities that do the same type service? I'm just wondering.
No, there's no issues with it. Those other entities are free to come and present to y'all as well. There's nothing that says we can't support their services as well.
Just wanted to make sure.
We're not solely endorsing Frontier.
Correct.
What they're doing is, they're just kind of letting you know what's going on and asking for your blessing with what they're doing. I don't see any issues with it, sir.
Maybe if I could just add on, if the extent, and this is obviously your area of expertise, I'm just speaking from, how we have interfaced with communities, counties, and municipalities. If they have any of the ARPA funding that they have dedicated to broadband expansion as well, or general revenues, some communities do it that way, they may issue an RFP and have the various providers, obviously compete for, the dedicated support from the community. So we've seen it both ways. I'll be very honest with you, in terms of success in securing a grant and bringing the state and federal money into the community, having a established agreement with a community and one provider is really the most successful. That's just been our experience. Some communities have taken the approach of, we'll back every horse because one of them is probably going to win the race. But there are a lot of points assigned for community support, community partnership, and so to the extent that you can maximize those, it makes the application more competitive.
Well, let me see if I can get this into some type of motion.
Well, I guess, I was just looking at that too. I guess the bottom line is, and Mr. Caldwell, you can help us again, but I guess mainly at this point, what you really need is the letter of support.
We absolutely would love a letter of support. We also would very much like to continue the conversation with you about whether there are ways that we can partner in a more concrete way to expand our services in the community. What we have done in other communities is, if there's a working group or somebody that you have as a lead that you want us to talk to, we typically would execute an NDA, and then we can share more details about the specific plan and opportunity, what the phases might look like, what the overall project budget would be, that sort of thing.
Okay.
So to me, that sounds like two motions. One is to work with Frontier to exchange communications, and the other would be a letter of support.
Well, actually, here it's because they're pursuing state grant funding to reach rural, high-cost areas of the county that would otherwise go unserved and seeking support from the county. can all be clumped in one, though, I believe. So let me put it this, Frontier is pursuing state grant funding to reach rural, high-cost areas of the county that would otherwise go unserved, and is seeking support from the county, including a letter of support to secure state funding. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion to pursue state grant funding to reach rural, high-cost areas of the county that would otherwise go unserved, and support Frontier in that effort, including a letter of support from the county to secure state grant funding.
Okay. Motion made by Commissioner Martin, seconded by Commissioner King. Is there any other discussion? If there is none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
And I guess to add to that, Mr. John Holcomb over here in the black shirt is our IT director, so.
Yeah,
and if
he
there's
understood
any-
90% of what you said. We didn't understand.
No, he understood
10%.
probably 105%, but yeah, and if there's any other paperwork, or if you want to do the NDA, then let us know and we can work that through the system.
I'll work with him. Thank you very much. Very
Thank
much
you, Ms.
appreciate your
Thank you.
time. You were very generous to allow me to share the.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is one of the things that we've been looking at. We
Really
don't really
important.
have a broadband team, but we need to start putting one together.
Absolutely, and the Economic Development Council, to the extent that you explore that, having somebody who has broadband interest and experience would be very helpful to that, because as you know, it's really critical to bringing businesses into the community.
Very much so, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ellis.
Okay, we're going to move to agenda item number 13, discuss and take action on changing commuting rule payment for county commissioners to comply with IRS regulations found on page 26 of IRS publication 15B at the $3 per day. Commissioners, I really have been studying this pretty hard. It's either way. I'm going to make a recommendation that we just, each one of y'all just meet, because Mr. Caldwell and I have talked about this extensively, along with Ms. Trevino and Ms. Moots. And I think the best thing is for each one of y'all, I mean, it's your choice, but I don't think we should do it here. You should individually meet with Ms. Trevino and Ms. Moots, and you find out which one's best for you. Do y'all have a problem with that?
So we're gonna table this?
Well, we can just let it die.
Let it die.
Yeah, we'll just bypass it. But I think if you sit down in front of them, they'll explain it fully to you. It's up to you. They'll go either way. It doesn't mean that it's a done deal on one or the other. But I think if you sit down with them and listen to what they have to tell you, and if it's your choice to go one or the other way, that's fine. They're both in compliance. Am I correct, Mr. Caldwell?
Well, I've done a little more studying over the weekend about it, sir.
Okay.
I think it's a little more complicated than that. But I'd be happy to do that meeting with them,
Yeah, would you do that?
but it is something that I think we all need to discuss.
Okay. I agree. But for right now, we're in place. There's nothing to be changed, and I just think that needs to be done. If you would do it, Mr. Caldwell, I'd appreciate that. Okay, very good. Thank you. All right, agenda item number 14, discuss and take action on choosing one of the 3 grant writing entities that presented on February 27, 2023. Those entities being Hollis Rutledge and Associates, GrantWorks, and Tacit Growth Strategies. I know that there were only 3 and we actually had invited more than that, and that was the only 3 that presented. It doesn't mean that you actually have, I mean, if y'all have already studied this and you want to vote on it, we can certainly do that today. But I'd like to open up the floor to a little discussion right now.
I guess, I don't know, Mr. Trevino, did you have any recommendation based on what you saw your department manages that? So.
That's right.
I mean, I think I did not speak with any of the ones that presented at the last, on that date. I would say for our scope of what we're looking for based on our discussions, I would say that Hollis, Rutledge and Associates would probably be easier for us and for my department to communicate with in terms of the number of grants, because we don't have, right now, we don't have a large influx of grant applications out there right now where we're seeking immediate assistance. We do have a couple that we could certainly use some help on. But again, I mean, I'm not saying that the other two couldn't do it either. And I think it's gonna be a lot of communication, between whoever you select, and me and my staff to determine who's gonna do what. And it just kinda, it just seemed like, because it would be a more one-on-one relationship, is what I gathered from, Hollis, Rutledge and Associates. But again, I mean, that's totally the court's decision. In terms of funding, I mean, we currently have money budgeted in my department for a staff member, which I spoke with the judge about, that basically we would be using that money to fund, if needed, the grant writing company. That's through a district court order, so I'd have to get the district court to change that, to free up that money so that we can use it for that. But other than that, it's hard to pinpoint because we don't have any pressing grant applications right now, currently active, waiting for help. So we have over 20 current active grants right now that Ms. Prado in my office is overseeing. Currently, those have already been applied for, and all of the reporting is being done by her. So I anticipate that that's not going to change because she's in that habit right now. But for any new ones, I think it's just going to be a conversation between me and whoever we choose to use. We certainly could use the help, for sure. So. Now, I have, at many of my conferences, I've spoken with people from GrantWorks as well, and it seems like they are very well-versed and knowledgeable in securing grant funding for multiple counties, but there were just a couple of things that I had some concerns about based on their presentation, to which I received answers from, so.
What concerns, if I might ask?
I think for me personally, when I'm listening to presentations to kind of gauge like who we're going to work with, it really helps me when people are coming in and prepared to let us know, have they worked with Wilson County before? What are the counties that you have worked with? And some of those answers were not quite clear. And they weren't as clear either from Hollis and Rutledge, but they were, honest in saying that we haven't, but they're more down in the valley. I just didn't get that one-on-one. It's almost when you're comparing large corporations to smaller, smaller organizations, it kind of gives me that warm and fuzzy. So that's just my personal feeling, though. I have, nothing against any of them at all, so. We will work, my office will certainly work with whoever the court deems appropriate.
I see, I felt like, of course, the third presenter did what?
Yeah.
59 seconds worth of video, so, not an interest is what I would say, to be fair on that. But
Correct.
I felt like GrantWorks, whenever they were presenting, lent itself to, they've done a lot more projects and a lot bigger projects and are pretty comprehensive within the entire state, whereas our first presenter the valley was the focus. Every single thing that they brought to us was from entities, communities that
More so than
were,
municipalities in the
municipalities were all located in the valley. I mean, I felt better about Grant Works and the overall package, but
I will say that I did reach out to a couple of entities to kind of do some reference checks as well, and that's where my opinion's based from.
So are we tied to just one company to do grants for us? I mean, if we have someone working on a particular grant and some other grant comes up, that means we can't use.
No, not necessarily. It's just
about the money.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's some of the most of the grants, most of the bigger grants, the federal grants, have it to where you can tie in the cost associated with administering the grant. So it wouldn't affect us from a financial standpoint. However, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Hollis and Associates is requesting a monthly retainer.
Correct.
That's where it would, you know, it's hard. I mean, unless you have current pending applications, I don't know that you could make a best decision right now, one way or the other, without looking at the application and seeing what it is. Because it could potentially be something that myself and Ms. Prado could write, and we would need to we would need to outsource it at this point. But I think it depends on the type of grant, what kind of application it is, and where we are time-wise. Some of these pop up and they're due within 4 weeks from each other. Well, with our workload, it's difficult to drop everything and focus on that, and that's where one of these companies could come in and help for us. I certainly, like I said, I agree with you, Commissioner Aiken, that Grant Works, you know, has a lot of the experience. I would want to develop a one-on-one relationship with whoever we choose, and I'm not sure, that's where I'm kind of stuck.
So we have funding for a grant writer.
We do.
Okay. But would that grant writer have the bandwidth that either two of these companies would provide us?
It's hard to hire a grant writer.
Yeah.
To say the least. They're not just out there. Most of them work for companies such as Grant Works, Hollison. I mean, they're not independent. And those that are independent are going to charge an arm and a leg to do it. So,
Well, yeah, and to add to that, I think the place we've been missing the boat is just that we don't know soon enough. So
Right.
these things pop up, and then it's like, oh, well, who are we gonna get to do this? And then we try to find somebody, and then they've got 2 weeks to prepare, and some of them fall through, and some of them,
yeah.
we missed around earlier this year because of that, because we couldn't find anybody to write them. And, I mean, to me, I want to know, hey, here's a grant that's coming up. It's going to open in January, and you got to turn it in by whatever the deadline is to turn it in. Do we have projects ready to go?
Yeah.
Or is this money that we need, or what do we need? Does it require a project to be ready to go? What are the, just a summary, a brief summary. You can get up to X number of dollars. Here's the period. It's going to open on this day. That to me is what we're lacking.
And I think what happened, and as a prime example, to Commissioner Martin's point, I reached out to Texas Association of Counties, our liaison, for some help. And I said, hey, who do you recommend? Because, they're our guidance. And he actually pointed me in the direction to someone, a grant writer in Austin, an independent person. And he responded immediately and said, yes, send me all the information, I'll look it over. And just to Mr. Martin's point, that he's just as busy as everybody else, and there was just not enough time, and it fell through. So it's hard. I mean, it's one of those deals that once a relationship is formed where we have a dedicated person or company to help us, that we could just be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, we're looking for some grants for rebuilding roads. Can you help us find it? And when you deem that we're eligible, okay, can you help us write it? And then once they write it and submit it, then we take it from there. We do the reporting, we do the expensing and all the reimbursements and all of that. It's that middle line.
How much is that retainer that we're talking about?
It was 2,500.
2,500 a month, I believe. My concern with that is according to the presentation, was that they would do the research throughout the month. That's one thing that prompted me to consider them, is because we don't have the time in my office to do the research that you need us to do for what's out there. Nikki, our librarian, is phenomenal at finding grants for the library, and she'll bring all of the stuff to us. We'll read through it, see if we're eligible. She's good at writing the ones for the library. Ms. Huron, in our county attorney's office, has also helped us write some for our ACOG grants.
Because I guess the bottom line is, we're doing okay with state money, but we're not doing okay. We're
On the federal side.
On the federal side, and that's where we really need help is the
Yeah,
the
because
federal
we have all
side.
the contacts here with our state reps. I mean, we make those phone calls every week, and we have built really good relationships with them. It's at the federal level where we're just a little pin drop on the map compared to everybody else trying to vie for money. That's not just for the 254 counties in Texas. I mean, you're looking, nationwide, and that was the RAISE grant, for example, is nationwide. So, like I said, my office can work with anyone. I don't know that, maybe we kind of do what Commissioner Perdola mentioned, maybe just try rather than committing to a monthly retainer where we're paying somebody, can we just try one or the other or both and say, okay, we're going to give you a shot. This is what we're looking for. Can you help us out? And then just kind of do a test run with both of them and then go from there. I don't know if that's possible or not with Rutledge and Associates, but.
I guess one of my questions would be, what do we get for the $2,500 retainer fee?
I think when I asked that question when they were here, they mentioned the researching, the application and all that. I don't know, because I've never worked with them before. I know that GrantWorks, they don't charge a retainer fee, and their fees are included in the application of the grant.
Which is appealing.
Which is appealing.
I mean,
Which
if you knew
it's
the
appealing.
future, if you knew that the first presenter was gonna take and bring $500,000 to you, then you wouldn't have any qualms about paying a retainer fee. But
Right. I think, Commissioner, where I question it is, where does GrantWorks get their money then if a grant application is not awarded and they've just spent hours upon hours researching and writing, and we're just one?
they make it to where they're successful by being in front of those people all the time and talking to them.
Certainly.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's where my concern was, is there something that we're missing? And maybe there's not. I've just never seen it so cut and dry before, so.
Well, we definitely need to find somebody to help us look for more grants, that's for doggone sure.
We're way behind on that.
Whether that's internally or
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or not.
Or a business.
I would say at the benefit of the taxpayers at this point, if we decided to give GrantWorks an opportunity, since it's not going to cost us anything, let them see what they can do for us. And if they come back and they prove that, hey, yes, we can, and they bring us money that we're looking for, and we don't have to pay anything out of our pocket, then the county's not at a loss.
well, let's address what you brought up. Can you make sure that we have a liaison that our auditor's office can take and communicate with, as a part of onboarding.
So with GrantWorks, how would you contact?
Come on up here, sir.
Yeah,
Come on up here, identify yourself.
Good morning. Michael Sledge with GrantWorks, and I've heard some of the comments here this morning, so I appreciate an opportunity to address those. As far as having a contact from GrantWorks, I'm a client service manager, and what I do is I work with the various COGs. The two COGs I work with are CAPCOG and ACOG. So when you first have any interest in a grant, you would start with me. And one of the differences between GrantWorks and I think some of the other vendors I've heard about is, we do not charge a retainer fee. We're constantly looking for grants. You don't have to come to us and tell us something is out there. Our job is to come to you and let you know that something is out there. And then if you're interested in applying for that particular grant, work with you to submit an application. That's what we do. And as also about the comment a little bit earlier about grant writing in general, grant writing, what GrantWorks does, that's a profession. We got 400 people on our staff in various backgrounds, broadband, application development, so very broad skill experts who have worked at the national level. And that's really what we do. But, GrantWorks would love to work with the county. No, we have not been out working with this county that often, but that does not mean that we don't want to reach out and work with you guys, because we do see these opportunities, and there are some serious fundings out there that we feel that you guys will be competitive for. So what happens is when I drive through some of these communities, I see them building a little bit of everything, and then I go to communities and things just kind of stop. And what I'm realizing is some of these communities where there's a lot going on, they know about these grants that are out there, and they're competing for them, and they're getting things done. So again, I would love to work with you guys as being a part of GrantWorks. You don't have to call me and ask me about grants. My job is to bring those opportunities to you.
So may I ask a
Yes,
question
ma'am.
with that being said? Because I think Commissioner Aiken, asked if we would have a direct liaison. I understand what your position is in terms of, but I think for me, what's important for me and my staff is that we have one person that we can go to. Are you that person that we're going to be from the beginning to the end? And it's my understanding at your first presentation, that's not the way it's designed, because you have so many employees, and my concern is that Wilson County we're just a number, and that's not the relationship that I'm looking forward to building, because we certainly, take great care and pride in our work, and we want to make sure that we're not having to chase people at GrantWorks, a person who's writing, a person who's researching, a person who's doing grants. And if you're saying that's you and all you, then so be it. But then I would expect then that we have answers when we need them, instead of you saying, okay, well, I don't know, but let me get with the grant writer, or let me get with the grant researcher, or and that's where some of my hesitation comes in.
Well, what I would suggest then, we would just have a conversation about what your needs are. Because again, for example, if you're working on a grant that's related to broadband, we don't want someone basically working on maybe a water supply system trying to answer a question about broadband. And that's the reason why GrantWorks have these people in these special areas. But again, I think it would be a conversation.
Yeah, so
We have this need, we don't want to talk to one person, can we make that work?
So it would be, and I can certainly see how that would be beneficial, where we have somebody with expertise in certain areas, that would be our contact. But as long as, if it's a person who is an expertise in road and bridge or broadband, that those are the people that we're gonna form relationships with, and not somebody new every time we pick up the phone and call a help desk. I don't wanna be calling, and I think that's where my difference in looking at comparing both presenters.
And the other presenter came up as more of a mom and pop operation, to where you would end up knowing everybody that you were talking to and would form a relationship. That's the concern here is that she don't want to make 5 calls, and we don't want to hear from her that she made 5 calls to make it happen in dealing with you. We want her to have a seamless operation, to where, hey, they came to us, they want to take and get this amount of money for this type of road infrastructure, where can you use it, or whatever the grant is for.
And I would definitely take that feedback back. I think it's valid feedback, and we'll address it.
Sir, I got a quick question for you. Okay, so if you find the grant for us, are you going to administer it and audit, do the whole thing for it?
So if we were to find a grant for you, we still have to go through the same RFP, RFQ process. GrantWorks will still have to compete just like everyone else. So it's not that you would just automatically give some contract to GrantWorks. That's not how it works. We have to, it's a competitive process.
Okay, maybe I didn't make, okay, so you find a grant for us. Who's going to administer it after that and do
Still
the,
has to go through that process. Even though we find the grant, we still have to go through the RFQ, RFP process.
I'm not following.
I'm not.
Wait, can you-
So, so say you guys wanted a grant for, let's see, build a retaining wall. And GrantWorks comes to you and say, oh, we found an organization out here that's a grant, you can get up to $250,000 to build this wall. Well, the process that we have to go through is, once we find that grant and bring it to you guys, you still have to bring that before the court to get approval to pursue that particular, basically the application. And when you post that out there, you got to send out these RFQs, 3 to 5 vendors, and each one of those vendors will get to submit
Oh, for
their
pricing.
their pricing.
yeah,
Yeah.
but that's not the question. The
Okay.
question is who would, because if I think I remember the group, the Rutledge folks said, once the grant comes through, they do the paperwork on it, they monitor it, and is that something GrantWorks is going to follow through on?
Yes, so if the contract is awarded to GrantWorks, we will handle the administration of that, taking care of the paperwork and everything else.
Ms. Kibbe, you're my expert. Do you mind coming up to the podium and try to, I think you know what I'm trying to ask. Ms. Kibbe is retired. She was a grant writer.
I competed with these guys. Back when Bruce was about all there
Grant
was.
writer who's retired and will not come out of retirement, just for the record.
That is correct. I've been there, done there, got the T-shirt.
I've tried.
But the process is that once that you have to, the industry runs this way. These guys do these things for free because they're depending on the idea that they're going to get enough of them funded and that you guys are going to feel obligated, since they got you the money, to give them the contract to do the administrative work, and they make their money off the administrative work. Now, when I was doing it, that means you do the environmental assessment, you do all of the, you help with acquiring the easements, if there are any easements that are necessary. You see to it that all of the paperwork, reporting's part of it, but that's the smallest part. You actually prepare the request for payments. You you work with the county auditor and the county treasurer to do a very simple tracking system, okay, but where you track everything. You see to it that everything is abided by when you go to contract, when you do the contracts and that kind of thing. That's the norm of the industry. The difference between, which is what GrantWorks does, the difference is in the valley, they don't compete for their grants. Here we have to compete. Down there they have what they call a gentleman's agreement, and they decide up front every 2 or 3 years who's going to get how much money for this and that. And so that's the reason this other firm is used to a different model, because they aren't used to having to work in a competitive environment. Any questions? And I don't have a dog in this fight, okay?
Thank you, Ms. Kibbe.
Thank you. Okay.
Well, I mean, to circle the wagons, I mean, at this point, I think Ms. Trevino's recommendation to look at GrantWorks, since they said they would not charge us, and give it a shot and see how things go. If it works out well, then it works out well. If it doesn't, doesn't mean we can't shift gears. And if we decide we need more help than that, then we can always get another one. I mean,
Do we give them a year, or what do we do? I mean, you just can't say 1 or 2 months.
No, but I would say that we certainly would be able to come back to the court with our feedback based on 1 or 2. I mean, grant applications are not cut and dry, so we'll be able to tell within the first grant application that we ask them to help us with whether or not it's a relationship we would like to continue. And I would bring that recommendation to the court one way or the other.
I have a question. Do you have a list of grants that are available in writing or on paper that you'll send to the judge or to Mr. Trevino so that we can go over and say, well, yes, we're interested in this, or how does that work?
Yes, I'll go back and I'll look, we do have a list,
Okay.
but what I will do is I'll go back and I will pull that together and send that to you, send it to the judge.
And will that be weekly, monthly list, or how often do you?
Well, the grants are, funding for those grants occur at a different time. So what we normally do is we start out having a meeting with the county, and we come and visit with you and hear what your needs are. Once and what we call from that conversation, we develop what we call a wish list. So then we begin to go back and look for grants around those areas where you said you would like to find funding to address issues within the community. And that's an ongoing process. That just not stop. And we really visit when there is a grant or something that may come up. We want to reach out to you guys and see if you're interested in pursuing it. It's the way it all works.
We'd want to be able to know what new grants are coming up, because you say a wish list, there may be a grant that comes up that's not on our wish list.
That is
we
correct.
might be interested in. So
correct.
I would be very interested in reviewing all of the grants that come up, correct?
And another thing that GrantWorks does now, that after working for the company for almost a year, I find, you know, it really, I think it's a good service to provide, is GrantWorks pre-scores grants. So when something comes up, and if the community is eligible, we will reach out to you guys pretty quick and say, hey, this is grant for CD 2324. You guys scored pretty high on that. Is that something you're interested in pursuing? So again, that way we don't waste your time. And that's very
Well,
important.
but I think by the same token, on the ones that we don't score well on, that we would be interested in, we need to know that. What do we need to do to improve our score? Are we missing something? I mean, if it's something that we can physically take action on to change it, because if it's simply because we don't have a designated person for something, well, we can certainly designate that person or whatever it takes, you know?
And so going back to the liaison question, though, so do you have, how often are you, because you mentioned that you work with multiple entities, right? How often would GrantWorks be working, researching for Wilson County and our needs? Is it daily, monthly, weekly?
It depends. So again, I think initially up front, if you guys decide to partner with us, I can see there being a lot of work on my plate, because you're going to identify this long list, right? And what I do is I go out and I perform research. And I was recently working with another city, and I spent 20 hours just researching at no cost to the city. So, and to me, that's initially up front, it's going to be more time as you kind of build the relationship then, but hopefully we get to this place and get into this rhythm where I can just reach out and say, there's a grant out there, it's so-and-so, are you interested in sitting down and having a conversation about it?
So back to Mr. Trevino's point then, so you will be our primary contact. If we identify a grant that needs a specialist, then basically you'll turn us over to that person and we'll deal with that person directly.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. But again, I will take that back to I've been with GrantWorks for a little bit less than a year, take that back to my manager, but that's the way I'm working with other communities. If there's something comes up, call me. There may be someone I may reach out to GrantWorks and say, call Mr. Trevino, she's interested in this grant, and then you guys kind of work that out that way. And what happened is, if once that person has been identified, it's probably the person that you're going to be working with on that various grant. So again, if there's two, one where we're doing something with a road, maybe one with broadband, you may be working with two people. Because again, those are two different grants, very different. And I wouldn't really want someone, you know, who's working on a road project really talking about broadband on the other end.
Right, and I think that's where my confusion is coming in, and maybe some of the commissioners too, that if I tell you this is our wish list and we're looking for a road and bridge grant, on one hand, I'm hearing that you're doing the research for it, but on the other hand, I hear that you're gonna assign it to a specialist who specializes in road and bridge, so that's where I'm confused. But, I mean, we can get.
So if we award you a grant, I guess what she's looking for is a one-person contact. So if, I understand y'all have a lot of experts, but once we get to working on a particular grant, I think she's looking for one person that she's gonna contact to work on that one grant and not multiple people. So if she has a question, she picks up the phone and she calls John, and John is the one that gets the answer for her, where she doesn't have to talk to XYZ to get the answer. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, I definitely heard what you're saying. So what I would suggest is we just sit down and have a conversation about it. Talk a little bit more about what your needs are. I take that back to GrantWorks and say to my boss and say, here's what the county needs. What can we do to make sure that Mr. Vigno has one contact whenever she calls in here about whatever issue there is. As I've said, you can always start with me. I will know who to talk to inside of GrantWorks to get something done. That is my role.
And how available are you on a daily basis?
I'm checking email all day long. My phone, you know, if you say, Michael, I need if you come out and visit, I'll come out and visit. That's what my job is, and I don't have a problem doing it. I like the job quite a bit, so.
It's Mr. Sledge, right? Okay, I've called you several times before you all did your presentation. You always picked up the phone. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Do you have I know you said you'd go back and look at the list, but off the top of your head, if you guys are as busy, you know, as it seems like you are, are there any active, let's just say, road and bridge grants right now that you know are hot off the press and it's something that we would be able to benefit from?
I can't think of one right off the bat.
For example.
But again, I would go back and
I've
look.
got a bunch of one-lane bridges that are outdated, and I'm needing to put in some new bridges to get away from these one-lane bridges. That would be a grant that I would be looking for.
All four of us. Every single person at this table has that issue.
More so, I
Again,
guess,
I lead back
3 and 4.
to my concern. My concern is, if you have all these experts and you guys are working with multiple counties, as you mentioned, I am very surprised that you don't know off the top of your head of available road and bridge grants, because every county is always looking for money for road and bridges.
Well, so that's a community development block grant that we're finishing up now that kind of, the cutoff date is in April, I think April the 4th. It was for $500,000. That was a big one that GrantWorks is just wrapping up right now. So, but again, the grants they open at various times throughout the year. That's the challenge. Then you had the opera funding. So again, you can use this funding for different types of activities within the community.
I'd like to see if we can't reach out and where's that other company? Rutledge, and see what they would do for a couple months and working with us without that retainer, or with the, I don't know if they'll give us without a retainer fee to work with that company as well, kind of like Commissioner Patola was talking, you know, do we have to have one? Can we have two? And see how both of these guys work out for us at this point. Is,
See who brings what
who
grants
brings
to
what
us.
to the table?
What would be your time limit on that, Commissioner?
Well, I mean, honestly, you're saying with the first one, you would know something better with the first grant?
I mean, first impressions speak volumes. I think it would, because you have to have a relationship with whoever you're working with, because it's a lot. There's a lot involved in the grant application process from beginning to end. So I definitely would be able to tell one way or the other who. And there could be other companies out there as well. Or there are other companies out there. We just, have to do more research. So.
I didn't get from the presentation that they were gonna work without a retainer, because he specifically stated whenever he was talking that we don't feel like it's good business to base the way we work on a maybe or getting you the grant. We feel like we're doing the work as we go along, and that's why we ask for a retainer fee.
And
So I don't think that his attitude would be any different in a callback.
Correct. And that's fine, but right now, we don't know, right?
And
So we could, it's just a simple phone call is all I'm saying, is, and if they come through with the whole grant thing, then we have a decision to make. GrantWorks comes through and they set us up, then we have the decision to make. It's just something that, I'm just not, unfortunately, I'm not confident in GrantWorks right now with what little we're talking about. Okay.
I would ask the court as well, perhaps, I know Judge, was approached by these three companies, and Judge certainly has a lot on his plate as well. If you would allow me, between now and the next court even, so to look at a couple, because I'm constantly getting emails from different grant writing companies, but I didn't want, to bring another company into the mix, knowing that we were going to be discussing these. But if it benefits the court to for me to get some information from other companies, maybe they're all the same, maybe there's some that are different, then I can, certainly come back and report that to the court as well.
I ask whoever we bring over here has something to show what we're looking for already. But if I had to put a time limit on it, Judge, it would be, if Rutledge came back and said, yeah, we'll try it for,
One round or something.
one round. I mean, that's kind of where she's going with this, Mr. Trevino is, so.
I will say the majority, almost all of the federal grants include administrative costs within the grant. So if you're a good grant writing company and you feel confident in your services, then a retainer fee shouldn't be a problem, or not receiving a retainer fee if you know you're going to get paid within the grant.
And I don't remember them saying anything about reversing the retainer fee if they were successful. I mean,
Yeah, no, and I don't think so.
and I don't think the intent was there. I think that they were gonna get a regular,
And that's probably between the differences in size.
correct.
Certainly.
He's got his monthly bills and,
And I'm sure they.
And they
do a
operate a
lot
staff
more.
of, 3 or 4 people in their office compared to
400.
400, so.
One thing I'd like to throw out, if you would like for me to go back to GrantWorks and talk to my director and have a separate conversation with you to address your needs one-on-one, I'm happy to do that.
I think it would be appropriate to table it till we get some more information from both entities. I mean, what's another month gonna hurt right now? I know we need to get this going, but we certainly need those questions answered on both ends. For both entities, there was questions that we have for both that weren't answered, and you provided a little bit more. Ms. Kibbe helped us out quite a bit. So, gentlemen, I'm just making a recommendation that we table it until we get some more information.
I make a motion to table discussion on grant writers award till we have additional information.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Commissioner Martin, seconded by Commissioner King. Is there any other discussion? There's no other discussion. Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, motion carries.
Now, will you all be providing us a specific list of questions that you want us to
That's
ask?
what I was just gonna ask the court if, with your permission, if I could reach out to the multiple entities, gather my information, and then report back to the court, these are my recommendations, and then go from there. So I certainly can reach out to you with the court's permission.
You certainly have my permission. Commissioners, y'all have any problem with that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Please do.
Thank you.
That's kind of her job.
Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you, Ms. Fletcher. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate
Appreciate
that
you.
very much.
I have your email address, so I'll make sure and email you.
We'll move to agenda item number 15, Commissioner Precinct 2, Mr. Russell King. Discuss and take action on adding a building and plumbing at the collection facility.
All right, so if you've been to the collection facility, you know it's, like, we got 2 guys that sit outside all the time. Doesn't matter what the weather is, and they get to use a porta-john. I don't know who actually enjoys using a porta-john all day while you're at work. But it's something that we need to address. We need to take care of our personnel out there. It's kind of important. So what I brought to you today, and we don't have to go through Leland's here, but what I brought to you is Leland's Barn and Chids. They're right here off of 181, right in front of Angelicus. So I looked at a 14 by 20 or 16 by 20 building. You can see the price right there. The 14 by 20 is $10,492. It's just a shed. A 16 by 20 is $12,627. He told me he'd give us 5% off for the county. That's delivered, set up, the whole 9 yards. So, which is great, and that's very generous of somebody to do that for us. Also, you can see there, for us to build inside of there, they would actually add an $80 per linear foot to build walls for a 6x6 room. So you're just shy of $1,000 with the door frame and everything else. We can do that on our own, which is a lot cheaper. We can build the same size room, put a toilet and put a sink in there. And we can actually put a little kitchen sink inside the office space as well for an extra $1,000. Like I said, we can do that ourselves. It's nothing major.
When you say "we," who is "we"?
Well,
Kevin, maintenance crew.
yeah, and that's what I was thinking to say. I'm thinking maintenance crew or somebody can get that set, right? So it's not costing the county anymore, but yeah, it's going to Lowe's or Home Depot or Ditmar, you know, whoever we're gonna get the wood from and the toilet from, or whatever we're gonna do, McCoy's. It'd probably cost another $1,000, a little bit more, just shy of $1,500 to add that. I also reached out and I talked to Brunson Fuller and contracting it out to get a septic system in there. And you have that bid right in front of you as well, and it's about $7,500. Okay? So all in all, quick math, with 5% off, a 16 by 20 building would be $20,500 roughly. A 14 by 20 building will be $18,500. Why am I looking at that size of a building? Well, I can put a restroom in there. You have a little kitchen spot so they can eat. And you actually have an office, and all three of the employees can actually sit in that one room. And whenever somebody shows up, they can walk outside and take care of whatever they need to do, you know. Getting on the loader or getting
Are
on
there any
whatever.
windows in this shed?
There are 2 windows, yes, sir. 2 windows and a door.
It's quite, would make for quite a long day to be sitting out there outside in the weather in the wintertime. I've been out there when it's drizzling rain and nasty and wet and muddy, and they're sitting out there in there's a roof, and we did get concrete under it finally, but it would make for a pretty long, miserable day.
It does.
Makes it pretty difficult.
The inside, in terms of air conditioner, desks, anything like that?
So they currently have an air conditioner, so we can put that in. Desk-wise, yes, ma'am, we'd probably, and nothing says that we can't build a tabletop up there.
Oh, we can get it from the surplus for.
Well,
We have a lot of desks
we,
and chairs.
we have plenty of stuff
I
that
went and
we
got a
can.
chair out of there the other day for me.
And I did not talk for electrical. I have not looked at that yet. So I do need to reach out, probably to Schroller or somebody like that, or if our guys, because I wanted to check to see if our guys could handle that in-house prior to reaching out. So I did not look into that.
Do we have any money in the collection facility?
So we don't have money budgeted in the collection facility. That's not something that was considered during budget season last year. However, we have known that we need some significant improvements out there, especially to take care of our employees out there. We do have $134,000 sitting in our reserve for unexpected expenses in our non-departmental, as well as about $35,000 in building improvements, also in non-departmental. So we certainly have the money to do it. If this is what we're talking about, I would say, you know, a not to exceed amount probably of $30,000, so that you can take in terms of electrical work and any other incidentals that may come up. But yes, we do have the money.
It looks like we could sure get it done for under 35,000.
Yes.
Is the interior finished out, or is it just stud walls?
Stud walls.
You know, it will make it easier to get the wiring done, but then we probably need to put some money
The
to at least put,
insulation and stuff.
yeah, to insulate it, and,
We could look at foam.
yeah.
That's why I said if y'all did like a not to exceed amount greater than the 20,005, then it would give you
No, we need a little more than that, because the electricals,
This was going to be 110 service, correct? I think on 220.
well, I don't know, is that a 220 air conditioner?
I gotta look at that.
Um,
But the power's already there.
yeah,
So,
service is there, but then they'd probably have to run some underground to the building and all that. It's probably, and then wire the building, light fixtures, none of that stuff is cheap right now.
and what,
You could probably spend easily three to four on the electrical, I'm guessing.
And I did want to, it's not really reminding because you wouldn't have known last year, maybe Commissioner Martin does remember, but we did receive, when we did the collection facility expansion a couple of years ago out there, we got a grant from ACOG to do that, and we had a county matching portion. Then the state came back and they had leftover funding, and we were awarded that leftover funding of, I think it was about $48,000 that they sent back to us after, months and months after the project was completed. We had already paid our portion of it. And that money just went back into the general fund last fiscal year. And so I just wanted to let you know that that money did hit our bank. It just was not budgeted for any improvements for this fiscal year because we didn't have anything to go off of, so.
That's right.
So if I'm hearing 35, you believe going to be enough, or does it need to be higher?
35 will cover this.
You're going to get to serve as a general contractor on it?
What's that?
You're going to be watching the money, is what I'm saying, and pushing the buttons. Okay.
Oh, I definitely
You want to,
Yeah.
But hear what Brenda's saying, there was $48,000
$1,000 that was there.
went into the general fund that we didn't
We would
spend
have had
out
this
there.
conversation last year, we would have used that money to say, okay, now we have this money left to us, so. And since it's under $50,000 for any professional service, I mean, it doesn't matter anyway, so.
But
Are
it
you comfortable with-
seriously needs to be done.
right.
I agree.
And I agree. I've been out there.
agree, yeah.
The road and bridge crews can get back into an air-conditioned cab. Okay? They have to work on the road, but then they have the ability to get out of it. And the people that are working there do not. This needs to be done.
I'm gonna say the winter months are even more horrendous than the summer months out there.
Is that a heater / air conditioner? No.
Heat pump, you mean?
But I know what you're talking about,
Yeah, you might want to consider that. I know, you talked to Brad Bryant, because he got me one for my shop.
Okay.
Just, we may need to change it out, just so that,
And I would say we would just code it to line item 5,000, which is building and building improvements in non-departmental, and then anything, if it happens to exceed what we have budgeted there, we would just pull it from 4615, which is our reserve. I don't anticipate it taking all of that, though. So there's no budget amendment.
I'll make a motion to upgrade, or to provide a building and septic, electric, et cetera, to the collection facility for an amount not to exceed $35,000.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Martin, seconded by Commissioner Peridola. Is there any other discussion? Was that a tie over there, gentlemen?
It was. The attorney took that opportunity to cough, so
Okay, the third was made by Commissioner Aiken.
yeah.
All right, any other discussion?
Normally it'd be me coughing.
If there's not, a call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Agenda item number 16, Commissioner Precinct Number 2, Mr. Russell King, discuss and take action to appoint Commissioner Russell King to the Insurance Committee.
Make a motion to appoint him to the committee.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Aiken, seconded by Commissioner Martin. Is there any other discussion? There's none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Going to go to agenda item number 17, our County Sheriff, Mr. Jim Stewart. Discuss and take action to obtain bids for repair and upgrades to the jail annex.
I believe y'all have left in front of you a year ago, a little over a year ago, DRG Architects came in and did a walkthrough at the jail. Made a recommendation on some these are the major things that need to be done. There's some minor stuff in there, but this is the major stuff that needs to be upgraded. The cell locks, privacy screening, and the showers. If you look at that, just the locks themselves are probably gonna run somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000, just to replace all the locks and cell doors.
And that's changing from pneumatic to electric, right?
Yes, those are electric. No, to redo the ones that are in there, they wanted upwards of $20,000 a door to retro those doors. This is an add-on, completely does away with the whole system.
So Sheriff, is that in addition to the shower stalls or where it says
The
200,000?
shower stalls are right here also. They got the sheet, the screening, privacy screening for shower stalls. I don't have a bid on that, but I know that can be handled by local welders. Shouldn't be a problem. My deal to go out for the bids, I know this is going to probably ballparking it, I'd say $350,000 to $500,000 to do this. Of course, in their recommendation, the shower stalls and the plumbing repair type stuff, you can't hardly get a company to bid it. Because of they can't just come in and do the whole thing. They gotta come in and work in one cell at a time, 2 cells, because of the movement. They really don't feel comfortable expending all that manpower to work 2 or 3 days here, 2 or 3 days there to move through the building. So I'm not sure exactly how to attack that shower part. Privacy screens, any welding company can fab those and probably mount them in there, and I can probably do multiple cells a day once they get them built. I'm looking for probably, I don't know, around $100,000 or so for those shower stalls, maybe less. Depending on exactly how much material costs now, because they're pretty specific on the material needs for that, for those privacy screens.
Sheriff, which plumbing companies have you talked to?
I haven't talked to any plumbing companies. This was what the architects did
Okay.
in their research. I will reach out to all the local ones and see if I can get anybody to come even look at it. My recommendation on this would be not to bid the whole project. I would bid it in pieces, because there are things that we can probably get by with that, because of cost today, if we looked at having like a top dollar deal, that we just stop rather than be in the middle of and have something go completely over and have to come back and do it again.
I will say about 3 years ago, the former administration had Opiella Plumbing give us a quote just on the shower install, and it was over $400,000 just for the showers.
Because they're talking about, because those are all concrete and tile,
Right.
they were ripping that out and putting in stainless, basically something that they would never have to fix. And yes, it was gonna be, I think it can be repaired as is, with retiling, a whole lot less expensive than that. Yes, it will wear out again, but, I mean, that's a lot. You can almost look at it by building a new building if you start spending too much money.
Sheriff, are these a lot of the things that need to be taken care of to be in compliance with jail standards?
The locks and the privacy screens for sure.
And failing to fix those, would we possibly,
We could be put in non-compliance, yes, sir.
and also that would hurt our contract with the federal government on federal inmates?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, I'll make a motion for the sheriff to obtain bids for the repairs and upgrades that are necessary to bring the jail into, or keep the jail in compliance.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Martin, seconded by Commissioner King, to obtain bids for repair and upgrades to the jail annex. Is there any other discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Move to agenda item number 18. Our county clerk, Ms. Genevieve Martinez, discuss and take action on allowing county clerk to enter into a new 63-month printer contract with documentation. And it's not the word, it's the company documentation. Documation.
Correct. And that's who we currently have, is Documation. I started looking at our contracts. We had 3 separate contracts for 3 printers that we use. And so they came in, did an assessment. Turns out our contracts were way over because they were looking at us printing like tens of thousands of copies of stuff a month, and we weren't doing that, and that's what they were based off of. So what we're looking at now is we have 3 printers that we use. We're looking at bringing in an additional printer so that we can have one up here for court. Right now, during court, my chief clerk has to go downstairs, make copies for jury. We have everybody here waiting in court because we have a small printer here. It doesn't work for us for court. And so this is bringing in an extra printer. We own 2 of the printers already, so they would just be listed for service and supplies. That's why you see that on the contract there. The other 2, they would be bringing in as like a rental.
We don't have the contract in front of us.
That's one you.
I sent you the contracts last week.
Those terms and conditions, I'm getting old. I can't read.
Okay, and just so you know, our county attorney's office did go over these. I did send them this information, and it was, they gave the thumbs up for it. And just so y'all know, I will be, any contract, any agreement, I will always send it to them first, before I even bring it before Commissioner's Court. And so that's what I'm asking, that y'all approve this contract for the 4 printers.
Why is it so long? I mean, 63 months is over 5 years.
They will go shorter. It's just going to be more. Because you're looking at like you're renting, kind of, not really a rent to own because we're never going to own the other 2. They update them every few years anyways. And that's the first thing I said to him, that's a long contract, and they can rework it, it's just gonna be higher.
Because I guess my question, Mr. Caldwell, was under the termination, I didn't see, you're happy that we could terminate that if we decided to do something different?
I'm not the county attorney that she sent it to. But I think 63 months, I did.
Well, my only concern is I think countywide, we need to do something to pull everything under one contract. And that's my concern, was that this is so long that if we were going to transition and do something for the entire county, and I'm not an attorney, but when I read it, I didn't see a good clause in there that said that we could terminate it for our convenience.
So what happens is, so I met with Charlie, and he's with Toshiba, because we have several printer contracts with Toshiba as well. They're all on different contract dates. So unless we terminate all of them and go with one vendor, I don't know how, feasible that is, but I certainly know that we don't have any issues, have not had any issues with Documation. We've been with them for many years, lots of years. And one of the benefits is that Documation includes all of the toner. And if you know the cost of toner right now, it's outrageous. And so with this month, these yearly contracts, toner supplies are included in that cost as well. So it saves the county on that end. I agree with Commissioner Martin that we should try to that should be a goal of ours, to get on the same page. But just like with Toshiba, I've got the one in the county attorney's office expires in April. Well, if we don't sign a new contract, then that machine goes out of warranty in terms of us with them, and then we're going to have to buy toner equipment. If it breaks, it's on us, et cetera. So that's why there's always a hurry to renew contracts or sign new ones, and we can never get them all on the same page. So, but I did speak with Ms. Martinez, and she went over the contract with me as well in terms of pricing and
And this is the vendor y'all are currently using?
Correct.
Do you have any issues with them?
Not at all. And that's, we're in all three printers were on a different contract. So they're all contracts that have not expired. So they're letting us do this even though really we're in active contracts right now for all three. And the way we're gonna do it and the way they're willing to do it is gonna save us $500 a month, even getting an extra printer. Because our contracts were renewing annually by themselves. That was automatically, that was in the initial contract years ago. So nobody was really looking at what was happening.
Oh, yeah.
That's, man.
Yeah, it's huge. And like Brenda mentioned, this includes toner and service for all the machines. And then the two that we don't own, that they're gonna be bringing in brand new, those get updated through every 3 or 4 years. Ours, because we own them, we've had them several years. That's why we're gonna they're gonna take one of them out.
I have no issues with this. I mean, that's gonna save the county over $35,000 over the life of the contract. Here's the only issue about the one big contract for everybody. Her use is far different than
Yeah.
your precinct use, my office's use. They have to print documents very, very specifically because they have to endure the test of time because they're public records, whatnot. I don't know if we'd ever be able to find that vendor that could do it all. But at the end of the day, she's the one that makes a decision. The 63 months sounded like a long time to me when I looked at it, but I figured I bet there was a discount involved with that. And the key to these contracts is the maintenance,
Yeah.
because those things break all the time. And they get out pretty quick for us. I don't know about you.
Yeah, and the toner itself is thousands of
Oh, yeah.
dollars a year. I mean, it's ridiculous. We save money just on not having to buy toner by going to the agreement with them.
And I'm also in contact with them, of course, revamping the contract that was done previous to my term. And they're real good to work with, and they gave me a timeframe just as well. But if I was to notice that our copy numbers are changing versus black and white and color, that they'll sit down and we can change that. We're not locked into that even a year into it.
Well, if y'all are using the same, is there any reason we couldn't get at least the same companies that are providing services together? Like Documation or Toshiba or whoever, if we've got existing contracts, could we? Because, I mean, I'm thinking that we add another machine in there, well then, that, the more they have to work with us,
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know, I mean, that's a good question for Tom, because, like, for example, that would be me telling Tom, hey, we're gonna swap out your Toshiba equipment and install it with Documation equipment. I don't know if that's my decision to do that, or the official's decision to do that.
It's my decision to spend the money in that line item however I want to. And I'm considered to be the best judge of character of that. That's scary. But I do know that, I would have to ask, why does it matter? Why does it matter that she uses Documation and she uses Documation? I don't think the company themselves is gonna gouge us because we have more than one contract with them. And if they did, well, that's an easy negotiation tool right there. You know, you just let me see it, I'll call them up and say, why are y'all charging us more for having two people on separate contracts than if we combined them? And I guarantee you, they want our business.
And it could be that if I'm sorry, Genevieve, if like, for example, when his contract with Toshiba expires at end of April or whatever, if Tom wants me to compare pricing and I call in Documation and say, can you give the county attorneys some pricing to compare? and he says, and there's, a little or a lot of difference, then he can make the decision on which, if he wants to keep documentation or switch, or keep Toshiba or switch to documentation. But it has to be at the time of the contract terming.
Sure.
Let me say this, so these are not the only printers I have. I have a few Toshiba. They're just not under contract. We own them and we pay for everything. I have another contract for our plat machine. That's Printworks. I'm looking at that contract right now. So I don't only use documentation. I mean, I have at least 10 printers, at least, in my office. We have to use different printers for all kinds of different stuff, birth certificates, marriage license. Our customers coming in and making copies of
Deeds or whatever.
deeds and, yes. So, yeah, I don't only use documentation. This is just for these huge printers that we use for, even making copies of the contracts and things like that. But, yeah, I also have Toshiba. I just don't have a lease or a contract with Toshiba.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion allowing the county clerk to enter into a new 63-month printer contract with Documation.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Paradola, seconded by Commissioner King. Is there any other discussion? There no discussion, call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move to agenda item number 19, County Sheriff, Mr. Jim Stewart, Sheriff's Office Monthly Report. And I just would like to let the court know that this is going to be reoccurring on an item on the agenda every time, so he can give us an updated report. You have the floor, Sheriff.
Okay, that was kind of my idea here, was to give y'all a monthly progress report, what the sheriff's office has done. That way, if y'all have any questions, some direction you would like to see us go or whatever. This will give you a little idea what we're doing. And in doing so, in the month of February, we handled a total of 1,637 calls for service. Of those calls for service, 531 of them were reportable. Reportable to us means we actually made contact with somebody. We talked to the complainant, the actor, whoever. 1,100 of them, we got called to someplace and probably didn't find whatever it was called.
UTO?
Yes. We didn't make contact with anybody other than maybe a cow or something. But of this, we've got some stuff that takes time, and that's what I wanted this report for, is of this, we had 106 animal calls out of that 531, because I know all of those animal calls are reported. 106 of that 531, 20% of our calls are animal calls. And depending on exactly what the situation is, that's some time consuming, takes us away from our proactive patrol, and being able to work at other more important calls. Out of that, we had 30-something disturbance, family violence, which 11 of them were assault with family violence, which turns into an arrest, which now takes an hour and a half, 2 hours to handle. Those are things that take us away from being out there with only 20 people to start with. That's what I'm kind of getting at here. We had 29 welfare checks, 11 mental commitments. And a mental commitment here is about a half day's work. Because if we go to San Antonio, it's a minimum 2 hours, just drive over there and back. However long you gotta stay at the call, however long, you're usually looking at 3.5 to 4 hours, from start to finish. That's another thing that I need to try to figure out a way to address, because it does take, patrol ability off when you got one person ain't even in the county for 2.5, 3 hours. I need to try to figure a way to fix that. We handle a lot of civil calls, but those usually don't amount to a whole lot of time. Some of the commissioners are in here. We had 39 traffic complaints, which we started logging those. Every time we get a call for speeders on a deal, trucks on a dirt road, we actually log that and show it in the system so that the officers know to target these places to look. So last month we had a little over one a day. And last but not least, on the patrol side, we wrote 225 citations last month. So our patrol division, at least my part-time patrol division's out there hustling up some work. So he's spreading his work around the county, I believe. If you do need, and y'all know that, if you need him, holler at me. I can target him to just about any place. He's been there quite a bit.
Got several calls.
Now I'll go to the investigative side, in-house, independent stuff. In the last year, we have 219 open cases in CID. 97 of them are just 2023 cases. 40 of them, actually, the supervising lieutenant is handling those 40 cases right now. That's four people plus the supervisor. So we got 5 people handling 100 cases just since January. That's 20 cases apiece on the average. And I give you these stats just to let y'all know where I stand, is how important it is for me to try to get personnel to make this where they have a workable caseload. Plus, I can get the job done that the public needs by being able to handle this stuff.
Can you push that out in an email? I mean, I wrote it down as a one.
I can.
The one that made the media recently, I know it's an active investigation. Has there been any forward movement?
Which one?
Whenever they interviewed you for the television off of 775.
We have not had anything that I know of actively develop out of it yet. I don't know that we haven't had another occurrence in the county, I don't think, since that date. And the one thing I haven't checked on is, have we had any public support, basically showing us anything we could investigate? That I haven't checked on.
And I want to compliment you because it was put out there that if anybody receives any type of contact via email, please don't delete it. Please forward it to the sheriff's office so that we can take and work that aspect of it. And I thought that was very smart investigative work to.
Well, the only way to catch them is to find people that actually saw them out there while they were doing it.
Or surveillance cameras on the homes if somebody
And like I
sees
said,
something.
I don't know if we've got any of that information at this time.
Well, they don't want to jeopardize the investigation by telling you. They're leaving it at the level to be able to take and work it and then go, guess what? Thank you for your work.
Yes, sir.
While we're here in court, can I
Absolutely.
say something?
Absolutely.
Constable Talley has been out, so Commissioner Precinct 3, Fowler, has been helping in Precinct 4. There's an elderly lady, 82 years old, that got evicted out of the Stockdale Assisted Living.
The housing authority?
Housing Authority. She has no family, no money, nowhere to go. And Constable Fowler got with ACOG. ACOG was able to step in and help this woman, and they have an apartment available immediately in Kerrville, which she may already be up there. He called me and asked me if I had a problem with him taking the county vehicle and taking this destitute 82-year-old woman to Kerrville, since she was basically kicked out on the street. And I took it upon myself to tell him, no, I did not. I thought that was a humane thing to do, and just wanted to let everybody know that I okayed him to take his vehicle up there and take this.
I would not have an objection to that. That's part of his job.
Yeah, she doesn't have any family. She's got a sister in Maine, and they don't get along, and she has no immediate family other than that one sister way up in Maine, and basically was homeless and on the street, or fixing to be, so ACOG stepped in and had an apartment for her up in Kerrville, so he took what little belongings she had and took her to Kerrville.
We'll make sure we reach out to Constable Fowler and thank him for that, because that was very important for him to do, and I understand that, to support him on that, so.
And that wasn't even in his precinct. But, I I thanked him for going above and beyond.
So Sheriff, and thanks for that information, Commissioner. 20% of your was your animal calls?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we all realize here on the court what we need on those priorities when we get this grant writer in here. That's one of on our list because he has not the time or the bandwidth to continue to answer those animals. We have met with 2 citizens this week to talk about their problems with stray animals, and we do have a problem. But if we're gonna do it right and we get to that point, because we're running very lean in the counties budget-wise, there is a need for that service. And if we're gonna do that, that's gonna entail a vehicle and a location or possibly a contract with somebody that could take those animals in to a no-kill shelter. But at the very least, you're gonna have at least 2 employees at some point in time to respond to those around the county. I'm telling you that it's coming up a lot, and it's gonna be something we're gonna have to address, and we gotta alleviate that away from the sheriff. He's gonna prioritize his calls, and animal calls is not on his priority list when it comes to that. He's gotta react to disturbances and other major felony type situations, but he's still answering those calls. The officers are doing a good job doing that, but that's something we're gonna have to address here in the very near future, how we're gonna start dealing with that issue.
And I had someone from the community reach out to me who had helped with this endeavor in other counties before as far as dealing with stray animals and how they built a system to be able to take care of it. We need to do something. Okay, it's an ongoing issue that seems to only be getting worse. We've got to start pave the way for infrastructure for, I mean, I know you need officers on the street, but this will take away from the officers on the street.
It'll take one of the major things out of our daily routine.
Okay.
So that would be a high wish list item on our grant.
It wouldn't be on the very top, but it's gonna be at the top somewhere.
It'd be up there.
Well, here's what I'm concerned of. I mean, I read that app every day, and there's other animals being attacked by stray animals, there's livestock, horses being attacked. I mean, there's gonna be, at some point in time, there's gonna be an owner that's gonna try to pull those animals, those dogs away from each other, and it's gonna get injured at the same time. So I'm concerned about that, and that's why I think it needs to be at some point, maybe there's a grant out there that can help us with that. I'm gonna talk with Karnes County, they have their own facility and their own people there too, and see how they did it. But again, Karnes County doing a lot better than Wilson County when it comes to money in the bank, so, and,
I'll put that on my list, though, to look for a grant.
yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, thank you, Sheriff. All right, I'm going to move to agenda item number 20, Ms. Rebecca Scriven, Permits and Development Director, Utility Permit. We'll start with 20A Permit 720, Sunco, WSC Precinct 4, County Road 467, review and approve.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Utility permit 720 and 721 are both to bore under County Road 467. Utility permit 720, they're proposing to place the 3-inch service line with a 6-inch casing 5 feet under the ditch. It'll be from right of way to right of way. And it's 1,000 feet west from the intersection of 467 and FM 1107.
You want to approve them both at the same time?
Yeah, let's do that. So it'll include 20A and B.
And for utility permit 721, it is a 1-inch service line with a 2-inch casing from right-of-way to right-of-way, about approximately 1,315 feet west of the intersection of 467 and FM 1107.
Judge, I've inspected both sites, and there's not any issues with them boring in areas that they have flagged off, so I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we accept permit 720 and permit 721 for Sunco Water Supply Corporation to bore underneath County Road 467.
Second.
Thank you.
Got a tie here. Okay. Commissioner, motion made by Commissioner Aiken, seconded by Commissioner Paradola, and a third by Commissioner King. I want to be fair with them, you know. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am. Agenda item number 21, Ms. Christina Moots, County Treasurer Report.
I'm providing January's report for you. Here's the copy for everyone to sign.
Thank you.
Here's to keep.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Again, excuse my voice, I spent the whole weekend in Kerrville cheering and hollering at a baseball game for my son. So it's coming back slowly but surely. But again, I have for you today, like I said, January's 2023 report. Everything still in the same format will show our beginning and ending balances for our checking accounts, operating accounts as far as our CDs and interest, and of course, our remaining outstanding debt that we have. Yes, ma'am.
Head what the Jackson Memorial Fund is called.
That is a good question, and I do not have all the full details. I have looked into it.
Okay,
And it's an ongoing.
I'll catch you off guard and just thinking about it right now, because I'm like, we don't even use that.
No, and that is one thing, because what stemmed from that is the one that we had closed. So I talked to the bank just to get prior information, looked at prior facts, and that one is, it's not a mystery. There's information I need to find more about.
Kind of like the original house that we had to go back.
Correct. As well as another one that we do get a statement on as well. But yeah, I'm not saying we're catching up with Karn City, but the interest is doing really well at two of the investments.
That's gone up, doubled, so that's really.
It has. It's looking really good, as well as you'll see on there, compared to the past, our Texas class is now higher than Texas pool.
Well, since Brenda asked that question and on the Jackson Memorial Fund, the number that's on your sheet does not match the number that's on this page.
On the,
It's only like $1 or something. Well, the
It's
total,
interest?
I don't know.
it could be, give me 1 second.
15,974.97 as of 1/31.
It could, let me look, give me 1 second, and I,
Talking a couple of dollars, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's $1 and what, 9 cents, but
that probably is, and I can see if it's an error on my part as far as receipting goes. Thank you for pointing that out, because I am going to make a note, because with Jackson Memorial, it's not obviously the monthly interest. I would say that would be something I could have missed on January, but I'm not sure. So let me look into it, and I'll bring my
I'm
findings
assuming
to
those
you.
numbers should match, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, they should. And I am going through a lot of those, so you,
Sure, the number on this report is probably the accurate number on
in the system, in our, the monthly treasurer's report.
typo on her cover sheet.
Yeah, no, it could. And I will definitely bring my, seeing the small amount of difference. But let me look into it and make a note and clarify for next reports, let y'all know.
It's a difference of running it one day versus the next, it looks like.
It shouldn't, because
It
It's through 131,
Yeah.
shouldn't matter.
As far as this report, it could by saying if we went ahead and did an operation and I printed this a few days after February, and then we dated something that needed to be in the month of, or excuse me, we ran the report in February.
But it
and
was,
we went ahead. That could be the case. In this situation, it's been a while, so, and especially with that account, I don't see that happening.
Right.
So I want to look into that.
that's such a small
It is, and
amount
it
that-
could be that interest, but I'm not, that really doesn't obtain interest in January, so I want to see why there is that amount. And if it is, something could have gotten receipted into a wrong account, and I have not pinpointed or caught that, that would be an error on my part, and I can correct that. If the interest didn't go into that account and it went into a different one by accident.
All right. I'll entertain a motion, to take action on the county treasurer financial report.
I'll make a motion to approve the county treasurer's report. So if you, how will you correct this if it needs to be corrected? Will you bring a revised back, or I'm just trying to figure out if I put in my motion to amend it in your file or whatever?
Yes, what I can do, if it, according to that, is email the corrected amount to everyone. Since my balance is not stated on my sheet, but I can email a corrected, what's my, I guess you call that receipts and disbursements page to y'all, updating that amount and explaining what the cause was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that would be the one that's going to get posted.
Necessary on the Jackson Memorial Fund account.
Second.
Okay, let's start over again. All right, who did we have?
I made the motion.
Okay. Motion made by Commissioner Martin, seconded by Commissioner King. Is there any other discussion? Of course, with the exception that it be corrected.
Yes, sir.
If there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to agenda item number 22. Ms. Jaylyn T. Bodiford, Human Resource Specialist. She will not be here today. She's representing the county at the funeral of her counterpart from Karnes County today that lost her life last week. So, Ms. Trevino, will you be doing that for us? Thank you.
I passed out the payroll and
Yeah,
status
that's it.
changes for you. Dylan Garza was hired as a corrections officer for the sheriff's department, making $18.03 an hour or $39,377.52 annually, effective March 24th, 2023. Luis Bilal Jr. was hired as a patrol deputy for the sheriff's department, making $22.60 per hour or $49,358.40 annually, effective today, March 27th, 2023. Carmen Mero has resigned from her position as patrol deputy for the sheriff's department effective March 28th, 2023. Gilbert Eston has resigned from his position as a road hand for precinct 1 effective March 31st, 2023. And Leighton York has resigned from his position as the assistant IT director effective March 31st, 2023.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move to agenda item number 23. Again, our county auditor, Brenda L. Trevino, discuss and take action on county bills.
Okay, Judge, I have county bills that I've reviewed and approved for $342,397.59. He got it in his email, so he's good.
Getting chilly in there now, isn't it? I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Martin, seconded by Commissioner Paradola. Is there any other discussion? There's no other discussion. Call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. Oh, you want me to make that announcement?
Before we close, I was gonna ask if we could. Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to pass the floor over to Commissioner King.
Just a reminder that this Saturday, April 1st, from 8 a.m. to noon, at the Wilson County Expo Center, we will be having the Wilson County Collection event to bring your hazardous waste, used tires, used electricals, and pharmaceuticals. We will not be accepting any large tractor tires. So if we can make your way over there and get some of the cleanup done, and that would be greatly appreciated. And the collection facility will still be open at the same time. So,
Okay, I don't see any other agenda items. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made by Commissioner Martin. Do I have a second?
second.
Seconded by Commissioner King. No other discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? We are adjourned at 11:41 a.m.